So I was asked recently to just do a quick review of me new road bike, the Giant Propel Advance 2. So that's what I'm going to talk about here. What I'll do is I'll talk a little bit about some of the components on there. I don't know too much about the technical specifications, so it'll be pretty brief. But there's plenty of videos out there about the technical specs if you want to have a look at it. I'll leave a link to one of the better ones in the comments for you if you're interested in that sort of stuff. Otherwise, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to talk about a little bit about my experience with the bike, how I feel that it handles, a couple of the pros and a couple of the cons, and how it deals with like climbing and descending and particularly long rides, because that was some of the information that I was curious about when I bought the bike but couldn't find much on. So yeah, let's get to it then. So the Giant Propel Advanced 2 is, as far as I'm aware anyway, Giant's entry-level aero frame bike. It uses the Shimano 105 group set, which granted isn't Ultegra or any of the Di2 electronic group sets or anything like that, but it has been really, really good, and I've been genuinely impressed with it. The gear changing on it is smooth, it's precise. You barely even need to touch the gear shifters that come along with it in order to get a response from the shifting mechanisms there, the derailleurs. I haven't noticed any gear slippage, nor have I had any problems when I've been trying to shift gears under load. So say for example when I'm going uphill, even then the gear changing is really accurate, which is something I cannot say about my my hybrid bike that I've got. So in terms of the gear in the 105, the group set, I've not had an issue with it at all. It's been great. It weighs in, the bike itself, I believe for a medium-sized frame, with all of its stock components, it weighs in at about 8.5 kilograms, which is probably quite heavy for the price that you pay for it when compared to other road bikes. But for an aero road bike, in order to get lighter than that, you're having to pay a lot more. Now at first when I bought the bike, I was a little bit concerned that like the extra weight would impact upon its climbing ability, but I've not noticed it at all. Maybe it's an effect of going from a hybrid, which weighed like twice my current bike, to the Propel, but I've had no issues at all with climbing on the Propeller 2. It's been great. The other thing that I was concerned about when I bought the aero frame was that the ride quality was going to be really harsh. I'd read that aero bikes are a little bit more unforgiving than, say for example, an endurance bike. But if I'm honest with you, I've had my aero bike like off-road. I've had it on like relatively rough cycle paths, and it's actually more comfortable to ride than my hybrid is, believe it or not. It's got a great ride quality. I've really enjoyed it. In terms of the stock bike itself, my main issue has been with the rims, the wheels themselves. Now when I bought the bike, I'd read around for some reviews on it, and the common theme, the common criticism that I found of the bike was that the wheels were pretty terrible. I mean, they're not atrocious, like they are still good wheels, still better than the other ones that I've got, but I have noticed a couple of issues with it. shortly after I bought the bike, the front wheel, the spokes on there began to creak. So they lost tension pretty quickly and had to be trued a couple of times to make sure that they're right. So I think that if you do buy the bike, remember it's the frame really that you're buying. The wheels can always be upgraded, and I think that's probably the first thing that I'm going to look to do is upgrade the wheels on there, because they're okay, but they're not great. The bottom bracket is a press fit bracket. It's molded into the frame, and it merges with the aerodynamic framing around the wheel. Now, as far as I'm aware, and when I'm riding it, it is super stiff. So you press down on the pedals and you go. It's really, really good for transferring the power from your legs directly to the tyre system. The only thing that I've noticed is that in a strong crosswind, it does tend to catch the wind quite a bit. So you have to be a little bit careful. I mean, round here, in the last month or so, it's been really, really stormy. So like the crosswinds have been like between 30 and 50 mile an hour, and you can really feel the crosswind blowing on the bike in those sorts of conditions. Into the wind, it's absolutely great. You feel very little resistance. I mean, that's what it's designed to do. But in a pure crosswind, it can be a little bit hairy at times. I mean, I imagine especially so if you have like deep section wheels on there as well, you're really going to feel the crosswinds then. So that might be something to consider as well if you're planning on buying it. Now, maybe a couple months ago, I posted a video where I compared the road bike that I have, the Propel, to my hybrid. Now these were like really short little sections. The one thing that I've had a chance to do since then is take the bike out for much longer rides. Now I'm going to show you some Strava data here. Now bearing in mind, I'd never ridden a road bike before getting this one. It was a learning curve. It's very different geometry from the hybrid, so it took a little bit of getting used to. And I wanted to show you this one specific route that I do regularly. It's like a sort of like a fitness test that I do for myself. So I took my bike out along this route, and as you can see from the Strava feed, I set a personal record on pretty much every single segment that was along that route. I mean, this bike, it flies. It's super fast. Obviously, depending on how much effort you're able to put into it, but it's the number one thing that I've noticed in terms of a difference between my hybrid and my road bike. It's that it cruises at a much higher speed than the other bike that I've got, at a much lower effort cost as well. Like, for example, when I'm riding with my group, on my hybrid, I had to constantly pedal, a lot of effort to try to keep up. Now, especially if I'm in someone's draft, there are times when I barely even need to touch the pedals to keep up with people. I mean, I can just glide along. It's a great bike. I recently went on the longest bike ride that I've done to date, so it's not a massive distance compared to what a lot of people do, but it is the longest one that I've ever done. It was 68 point something miles, and it gave me an opportunity to test a number of things about the bike. So in terms of endurance riding, I was really surprised. The geometry of the bike feels very racy. It's aggressive. and you can feel it in the way that you sit. So I expect it to be aching and perhaps get some lower back pain, some issues with my arms or something like that across the ride, but none of that at all. Now, that's surprising to say the least. It was by far the most comfortable distance ride that I've ever done. I mean, on my hybrid, I've done like 58 miles, I think was the longest that I've ever done on my hybrid. I was really struggling and it took a lot of effort. But with the way that this bike cruises along, it saves you so much effort, and it's surprisingly comfortable. I didn't expect that at all when I bought it, but so far it's been good. I have some much longer rides coming up, like I have 107 miles coming up at some point, so that'll give it a real good test, because it's not often that you'll be doing more than 100 miles on a bike, at least most people anyway. So it would give a really good indication of how it feels, but I'm pretty confident in the 68 mile test that it's going to be a fairly comfortable ride. The other thing that this long ride gave us the chance to test was climbing ability, like proper climbing ability. So at the minute, where I live, we have some quite steep climbs, but they go on for like 100 meters, so it's difficult to tell. So where I went to had some, real climbs, if you want. I went up one that was a category 4 climb. Now, my climbing ability is atrocious. I didn't realise how bad it was until that point, but the bike itself was absolutely great. It had a wide range of gears. I mean, I did have to drop it down to the smaller cog. In fact, I think I probably used all of the gear range on the bike across the climb. At least the lower half of the gear range. But it had sufficient gears to get up. It responded really well when you stood up, when you got out of the saddle. It was an instant response. And I enjoyed the climbing ability on it. Where I think this bike really excelled was in the descending. It was fun. I mean, super fast. There was one descent when I was out there where I got up to 39.5 miles an hour without even pedalling. I could never have done that on my hybrid, mainly because of the positioning and the aerodynamics of the bike, I imagine. But it is so much fun. And even when you're going really fast, if you press on the pedals, like you can see in this clip here, you get an instant boost of speed. Now, I was with my club, so they all have like really nice bikes as well, and I was really impressed by the speed that I could get out of the Propel. Brilliant at descending, so much fun. In fact, I cannot wait to get out onto the roads again to go down such descents. And when descending was just how stable the bike felt. Rammed the corners at pretty high speeds. It felt great. I had confidence in its ability to handle it all. It felt smooth. The undulations in the road didn't cause any like massive amount of shaking in the bike. Just handled it really, really well. And I know you're not really meant to judge bikes like this. It's a little bit shallow, but the thing looks great. I've had people like actually stop next to me to ask us about the bike because it said it looks great. And let's be honest, you want to be riding around, whether shallow or not, on a sexy looking bike. Overall, I'm seriously impressed by this bike. I mean, for how much you pay for it, it's great. Now, I don't have much experience with other road bikes, but I know the guys in my club who've also bought it, they do have experience with road bikes, and they really enjoy it as well. It's a fun, stable, really stiff but comfortable ride. Personally, I'd recommend it. Great bike.